Hello. Um, Today I want to start with a quote. Happiness is when you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. A quote from Gandhi, and a good way to start this interview today. Hello, my name is Dinis Guarda, and welcome to Cities ABC video YouTube podcast series. I'm here to talk about the biggest challenges and solutions to the problems and all the different things that humanity is facing, and especially how can we think bigger and out of the box, and how can we as well make the world a better place. I profile and interview people, top thought leaders, and inspiring people that are changing the world through their initiatives, their companies, and their actions, and as well how to look at the world in a more positive and as well more inspiring way. This podcast and videos are part of the platform citiesabc.com, a Society 5.0 wiki for AR intelligent smart cities platform for reinventing cities, universities, organizations, and all of us citizens. It's an honor to have today with us Anil Singh and Vivek Singh. They are the founders of Procam International, an organization committed to elevate and enliven the professional face of sports and players. With an open, transparent culture and found on an unshakable core of integrity, Procam offers turnkey solutions for the wide spectrum of the sports industry and all the relationships. They've been pioneering events around the world, and especially in India, boasting massive participation and supreme calibre in over 50 events held worldwide. And as well, they are right now looking at the epicenter between the sports industry, the running industry in general as well, but as well the data and digital, and a lot of work in charity. Welcome, Anil Singh and Vivek Singh. It's an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you for having us. Dinis, it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Denise. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So before we start, and I think so, both of you are brothers, which is beautiful, as I mentioned before. We started, I think it's really impressive that you build out of Mumbai a very big sports organization that is still, it has a huge way still to go, because I think sports are going to become increasingly important for all of us, for society. But as well, what I love is that you've been doing this as a family, but as well as a very concrete persistence work between building an organization that not only builds some of the biggest events of sports in the world, but as well, you are building a community around this, and now increasingly a digital and data profiling. And with all this, the relationship with the charity work, which is critical in India, but as well massing and getting a big participation of people. So I would like to start by asking you about your background, your I think family background. I think it's beautiful, the fact that you are working together for decades, and as well that you're still building a very big organization, and as well a very inspiring as well way of looking at sports, but as well community.
So, well, sport has been my life, and of course now my brother's life too. But I, when my father was in the army, and one of the top riders equestrian riders India ever produced, and also he commanded the 52nd Mounted Regiment, with a very prestigious, cavalry regiment, and loved horses. And so we've grown around that, and we've grown in that environment. And my mother was an accomplished rider too, but she was a Parsi, and my father was a full-blown Sikh with a turban. And when they met in Kashmir, coincidentally, my father fell in love with her. And in those days, in those good old days of the 50s, they would think that a Sikh was a dacoit. And the Parsis would actually cross the road when they saw a Sikh coming. So she did tell him to remove the furs and feathers, so that at least the family would accept to see him, forget anything else. But I think that really blossomed into, my mother was very, she was an accomplished singer, she was an editor and a good rider. But I think that I think Cupid, as I said in my work, Cupid sort of probably shot his arrow while they were riding together or what, because for that kind of union to take place in those good old days was tough. And we always lived around, because of being in the army, we always lived around clubs, normal clubs, what we call sporting clubs or entertainment clubs. So we had access to sporting facilities, tennis, squash, riding, whatever you wanted all our lives. And my brother is 7.5 years younger to me. But then when I taught a pro camp with another friend of mine, I knew that my life could not be anyway mapped sensibly without him by my side. And thank God for making some right decisions in my life. So yes, that's how, Procam was in that sense born, and that's the journey we've undertaken together.
What Anil said is spot on, but my take is a slightly different one. I think Anil decided somewhere along the line in the beginning that he was dabbling with the travel industry, and he was dabbling with some other things. He decided he really didn't like going to work. So he decided that how do I not go to work and yet make something of my life? So his passion for sports is unbridled, and he decided to make his passion his profession. Now that's all well for you all to hear and for me to say, but you've got to get the context that in 1988, when Procam was launched, there was nothing like a sports industry in India. There was no sports management. Sponsorships happen on a completely ad hoc basis. If the chairman liked golf, he sponsored golf, whether the company made soaps, which were for the mass consumption, and golf was an extremely elitist sport in those days. It didn't matter. There was no industry, there was no science. And yet Anil, and with me along with him, we started Procam International, a full-fledged sports management company. So it's very important to realize that 32 years ago when we started, there was no organized template or no organized paradigm called sports management in India. And to endorse that point, I remember his father-in-law, Anil was making this passionate thing about how he's going to go out there and build a sports management company. And on the back of that, God willing, there'll be an industry that starts because none existed. I remember his father-in-law, who came from a little more traditional background, hearing him out and saying that in clear Hindi, which I won't use right now, but the effect is there. But this is a fabulous thing you're doing, my son. But, please do some work along with it because my daughter has to be fed. So yes, and the journey of Procam is actually the journey of sports management in India in many ways.
That's very inspiring, and I think it's really quite impressive because if you see, and I think a very good point, so India has been going through a massive revolution in the last 32 years, and then I would say that it's like night and day in a lot of ways. And as well, in 32 years, India went from being a former colony of the UK to be, in the next 20 years, the second biggest economy in the world. But as well, if you look at sports, as well, in 2018, the sports industry was around the $471 billion in the United States. And we were seeing that probably in the next couple of decades, it's going to be one of the biggest industries in the planet because it touches sports, wellness, and different things. So I want to touch two things on your background. So first of all, the multicultural. So Parsi mother and the Sikh father, which is kind of impressive as well, because I know how this is important for the Indian culture. And as well, building something, like you said, without the blueprint. Can you tell us about this? And as well, in India in the 1988, which was as well a very complex situation, I'm sure, for you to start something on sports, and as well in India with all the development issues that were at the time.
Well, Procam actually was born out of professional camps, tennis camps. So the gentleman who started, Enrico Pepe, who started Procam with me, was India's #1 tennis player at that time. And I used to play the circuit too, and he sort of insisted that we get some work going with it. And we started off with doing a professional tennis camp, and then we actually moved into hosting a professional tennis tournament, which was like it was before the nationals, and the nationals in India had a prize money of literally $15,000 US. That's it. And everybody, and on top of the good old days when Sashi Menon and Anand Amritraj and Vijay Amritraj and Royappa and all these names, and the nationals was nothing more than $15,000. And people would come in by train, stay with friends and play. So we thought, that Vivek and me thought that it would be great to take this, make sure it, because to me, it ain't sport if it ain't live. If it ain't live, it ain't sport. That's how I look at life in terms of sport. So to me, we thought that, hey, why don't we get television? We had only one channel in the country called Doordarshan. Not even Doordarshan broken up into different channels like Doordarshan Sport, etc., etc. We had only one national channel. But we were lucky to put our point across, and we were lucky to get the Director General to agree and telecast the event. We ensured they stayed in 5-star hotels. We gave them airline tickets. The prize money was close to about 10 lakhs would be what? Close to about 100, I don't know. Yes. 15 rupees. So we made it into close to 10 lakhs, which would be at that time how many dollars? About 100. $75,000 from $15,000, and we created a wonderful ambiance with a little bit of strawberries and cream like Harborough, Wimbledon does, and the umpires being trained, and we created this actual a complete new paradigm, which went, I must say, with brands and with everybody around, it really went down well. So that was the really way we started the first interaction with sport in terms of hosting and promoting an event. And then we, of course, moved on to cricket, and we did the Pepsi Cup Double Wicket World Championship and water skiing World Championships and squash. We did the #1 squash event in the world called the Mahindra International Squash Challenge. And then after 8 years, we culminated that relationship by doing the Mahindra World Open in Qatar, the only private company in India to do an official World Open worldwide. So these things led to one another, and then before running came into our lives.
Yeah, that's very impressive. So I think just coming back to these last 40 years of history, and as well the evolution of the sport. So you start like initially the clubs and all these different clusters and communities, because in the end of the day, every sport is a community. If you look at squash, if you look at cricket, if you look at football in different areas. So how did you build Procam? Because I'm particularly interested as an entrepreneur as well, and as an author. I respect people that build things and in the long term, because it's very beautiful to criticize or talk, but what is exciting is to build something. And build something in India 30 years ago and keep it growing, and especially, like you said, in an area that there was nothing. There was no sports industry.
And each of our states is like a different country in the world.
Exactly, yeah.
It speaks different languages, has different gods, has different rituals, different eating habits. So, it's also important that when you do something, you make sure that it's meaningful for everybody as part of this country.
No, completely. So, yeah, go ahead, Vivek.
It's a good point, and I think the fundamental stone that we have laid, without even actually, making it something very intellectual, is that we are here to build something for the society. And that's all. If you see the thing that, there are many aspects we have taken on projects may not have been commercially viable because we chose, like you said, a sporting paradigm called sport, which in India was in a very different place. Second, we didn't choose cricket or football. And even in cricket and football, we've done more with the schools than with the professionals. So we also chose sports which have not really got that place in the sun. So I think the real reason was that we were committed to doing something larger for the benefit of society and not just for us. Everything that we have done, of course, it's a commercial venture. Of course, it makes us money, but it has always been done keeping a larger lens in mind. How is this going to affect the ecosystem? Is this going to change some paradigms? Are people going to start talking? People don't understand how sport was relegated to the back pages here, and how today a whole different sea change has come about in sport. I know we used to go and sit with marriage decorators. You'd say, why would we go and sit? Because we had only marriage decorators to build our stands. So when we started with tennis, which we did for 10 years, we used to go and sit with marriage decorators and guide them as to how to build spectator viewing galleries. So slowly, we have actually contributed to the development of the ecosystem, the development, the professionalization of sports. And I think the reason we managed to do that as entrepreneurs with very little resources and with the whole ecosystem is because we did it with a larger good. We didn't do this to make money out of sport. Of course, we make money out of sport, and we're proud of that fact. But it's always done that was one bucket and not the sole reason for doing something. Because if that was the sole reason, then you would have made different choices along the way.
And just to add to what Vivek is saying, it is also important for us to lay a longer road for that event, for that conceptualization of, let's say, the Standard Chartered Summer Classic Tennis Tournament. The idea was to make sure that it grows in every avatar, whether it's, and every time, anything we do, we always increase the prize money, increase the surround, increase anything that we can do better. So it just gives it more traction, more connect, and we've always got a road. We may get to it or we may not, but we always have a road that the event or the baby that we've given birth to really stands out tall in time to come. So there is a method to the madness, if I may put it that way.
No, and I love that. I think it's one of the beautiful things about India is that I think probably it's the most complex society in the world, but as well one of the most generous societies in the world. I think we cannot look at India from a Western perspective because you have thousands of years of history, like you said, hundreds of religions, hundreds of languages, and everyone coexists. You are a democracy, and you are growing to become the second world economy in the next 20 years. So one of the things I'm particularly interested in is like when you start this, like you said, was this social impact and as well community sense, which is still very present in everything you're doing because of charity work, is that you start looking at building something without the blueprint, and slowly you build the blueprint of the marathons, you build the blueprint of a lot of different sports. So tell us a bit about the sports in India and about this background, because you've been in a lot of different sports, a lot of different things. Just to understand the last 30 years, the evolution of sports in India. And as well, I know that cricket is the mainstream one, but there's a lot of other things that people don't speak about it.
So it's interesting that you say that because very few people know that cricket has come off in India. The relevance of cricket, and I'll explain this point, is just about 13 years old. So hockey and football were the two big sports in India. I remember a conversation with Anil and myself having with Star TV at that time. It was called Star Sports at that time. And Star came to us and said that we've done our research, and we were heavily invested in tennis at that time. They said, we've done our research, and cricket and football and hockey are the two big sports in India, and they're going to get even bigger and bigger and become the biggest thing since sliced bread. So I remember Anil or me saying, but what about cricket? They said, no. Cricket is a little bubble that sits. It has no connect with the groundswell unless there's an international match being played. Cricket has no connect. True to their word, these were not just false claims. They went and put money on the table and signed 10-year contracts with the Football and Hockey Federation, not with cricket. In 1997, the Pro Football League was born here, which was called the Philips National, sponsored by the German company Philips, the Dutch company Philips. It's called the Philips National Football League, 1997. There was no cricket. Cricket was a little bubble that sat on top if international matches were held. Otherwise, you could not pay to get 50 people into a stadium to watch first-class cricket with national team members playing. You couldn't pay enough to get 50 people into a stadium. Unfortunately, the two boards, the football board, the hockey board, and we know people personally, they were not the board, aficionados at that time were not there maybe for the right reasons. And they tried all kinds of tricks, and Star actually got fed up. And by default, at the same time, at the point in history, cricket had two of the most amazing administrators. And cricket then came as a default, and Star and the television networks and others started getting behind cricket in a bigger way. It was actually by default, because football and hockey just reneged on a lot of promises, a lot of professionalism was lacking, a lot of commitments that were made were not being kept. And on the other side, you had two amazing administrators running cricket in India. Then even that took some time. Even that just didn't happen overnight. But slowly cricket built. And in 2007, when the IPL was launched, yes, cricket then became something that everybody on the street can relate to and talk to, because we had our own league. But so people don't realize this, that we are a hockey country. Hockey was the national, and I think, well, yes, but it was for sure, and in somewhere in dusty books, school books, it's still the national sport of India, followed by football, not cricket. So it's amazing how, people think today that we are just a cricket-centric country and all cricket. First of all, we are not. Cricket is, of course, the 800-pound gorilla in the room. The IPL is one of the most successful leagues in the world, and they've done a fabulous job to unearth talent, bring entertainment into cricket, bring women to watch cricket. Hats off to them. That's as recent as 2007, to be honest. We have, been around since 1988, and we have been actually doing different things. Inter-school cricket. We had the largest inter-school cricket program in the country and ran it for 14 years. Inter-school football.
I think in the world, actually, the biggest inter-school program in the world.
In football, we had a huge inter-school program, and we finally had a tie-up thanks to Airtel with Manchester United. We've had tie-ups with the Celtic football club out of Scotland. So, it's been an amazing journey that we've seen all this happen. We've stayed the path. And now in 2003, we actually did something which was a watershed moment, in my opinion and Anil's opinion, in the sporting history of India.
But also, as of today it's way more wider. So there is phenomenal success on kabaddi, badminton, volleyball. I'm talking about indoor volleyball, and different disciplines of track and field. We've got some great stars there. So weightlifting and boxing and many of those shooting. And so there has been a wrestling. There has been a huge, now all these various sports are supported not only by the government and by networks, but also by by sponsorships. So the whole ecosystem has definitely arrived, and lots more to go. But, but like Vivek said, the cricket is still the 800-pound gorilla, undoubtedly. But what is fascinating is that the switch, and we will talk about that, I guess, at length, that the switch when we managed to bring participative sport into our world.
Yeah, that shows a lot how sports have been maturing. I think probably if you look at the industry, as we can call industry, there's the United States and I think Europe, but then around the world, there's a huge component of sports as a social movement. For instance, we have Nelson Mandela in Africa that partly changed the country through sports. As well, India is right now becoming a powerhouse, and as well with a growing young population, that will be bigger and bigger. So in that context, you start Procam.
Procam was a full-fledged sports management company, and we still stay true to that. So many different functions that other sports management companies outsource, whether it's television, whether it's media, public relations, social media, design, operations. We do all of that in-house. And that's something fabulous because we're able to keep a close eye on things. We're able to deliver in time. We're able to deliver quality. So we're a full-fledged sports management company. We have our own television arm. It's called Initium. Fabulous people. All the live stuff you see Procam doing, and it's not easy to do a live telecast of a marathon. All the live stuff you see Procam doing is thanks to Initium. We have a digital arm. It's called Event Genie. All the back-end registration and the architecture for the running revolution in India is thanks to Event Genie. So today we have evolved over time, and so is India actually, like Anil said. We've evolved over time to a holistic offering. Today, the country is also at a place where they want that. They've got fabulous, the demand for sport is just increasing. It's amazing how many sporting networks and channels in India today. Different sport. 12 or 13 different sporting channels in India. And the consumption for sport is growing more than the consumption in these kind of figures, which is very common for all of you to find out. Living in India, we see how the mindset has changed. How parents are reacting to their children who are sitting at home on devices and saying, get out there and play. How sports is being inculcated into the mainstream of not just dinner table conversations, but schools, colleges, homes. And that's very important for us, is to see the socio-sporting revolution take place in India in front of our eyes.
Well, that's very inspiring, and I think it's going to become much bigger. So one of the big events that you've been doing are the marathons, and the marathons are really a massive event that probably is not from an industry perspective like the one that gets the big money of media and all the things, but is the one that concentrates the society and as well cities. Can you tell us about that creation of the marathons, and as well now that is a global footprint that you've been building? And I think probably one of the epicenters.
Yeah, I'll just kick it off, and I'd like Vivek to sort of put a little more layers into it. But, you know, when Vivek and me were in London as the guest of the London Marathon, and what I experienced that day was truly surreal. Because what I saw there, that's what today, and that's a very interesting fact about this. But what was exciting was that, you know, that today the sporting canvas is divided into two. You have the spectatorial side, which is you go to watch a tennis event, a cricket event, a football event, and you react to it as you would as a spectator. There's a winner and a loser. But in participative sport, what I saw that day at the London Marathon was 50,000 people and 50,000 winners. And therefore, there were 50,000 stories. And as we all know, life is about stories and nothing else. So, and they are participating in a world-class platform. The London Marathon, the New York Marathon, the Tata Mumbai Marathon, Airtel Delhi Atma. These are top platforms of global sport. You've got the world's best running there, whether it is Haile Gabriel Selassie, whether it is Eliud Kipchoge. They've all been part of our events. So if you look at that side, and that's when I thought that every single country in the world has a big city marathon, if not one, at least, if not 5 or 6, at least 1 or 2, depending on the size of the country. And why can't India, therefore Mumbai, have one? Now, yes, there is an argument that you can't have one because, you know, nobody runs at all, period. It's not. In fact, we start our presentation with this one, the old time club today, but where we have this one man sleeping on a park, on a bench, and a dog sleeping under him. And that's how the park is being used. There is nobody else running or walking at that time. So, yes, and when I would try and approach this, and we were clear on 2 or 3 fundamentals, Vivek and me, that if we had to do this here, it had to be such a big one that would actually shake the community and say, what? Roads are closed, helicopters in the air, blah, 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 blah. You know, these things, world's best athletes, thousands of people running. This is not India. But we had to achieve that if we had to make a difference. If we did it in some back alley in a small way, it would never have succeeded. So we bought, and it took a long time to find people to back us. I mean, Vivek and me can write a book on all the hilarious escapades that we had at all times. But it was. But you know, we stuck to it because we were never shaken from our course, and we built the 5 pillars, which was harmony. Communal harmony. You know, the showcase of the city, help to Indian athletes, charity. And what was the 5th one?
Pride and prestige,
pride and prestige,
charity, communal harmony, a boon to Indian athletics.
Yeah. So we built it on these pillars and we stayed true to them. Anything we do must fall back within those pillars. And so that's what the whole intent was. I'll let Vivek add a few more points to it.
This is very valid. Anil just mentioned the 5 pillars that the marathon was built on. And that has been really the raison d'etre, why it has actually succeeded and become not just an event, but a movement and a revolution in India. Now, what is the key aspect out here? What is the key aspect? The key aspect is mass participation was unknown. Distance running was unknown. Participative sport was in its infancy, if at all. And still there's a company, and there are people who have chosen to put certain pillars on the ground, none of which we can see today at that day. In 2003, when we launched it, in 2004, we conducted the first edition of the Mumbai Marathon. None of these pillars we could see. Communal harmony based on sport? No way, it is only religion that did that. Charity based on sport? No way, it is only religion that took away charity monies. Whether it's boost to Indian athletics, distance runners were at the lowest, bottom of the food chain, as we call it, in terms of athletics in India. Boost to Indian athletics in terms of distance running, pride and prestige for the host city on a sporting platform, unheard of. Health and fitness, India was just kind of waking up to that in a very, very nascent way. So the beautiful thing is, the pillars that Anil spoke about, it's so easy to talk about it today because each pillar is mushroomed into a mighty oak tree. We couldn't see any pillar. We only saw barren land. And yet we put those 5 pillars. And we said, not only will we make this a big success, we'll make it a success for all 5 facets of it. And if you ask me, what is the real secret? What's the real magic? What's the real recipe behind the success of the marathon movement in India? It is the fact that we put pillars in the ground where we could see none. It's the fact that we stayed true to the pillars. And today, each pillar is a mighty tree bearing fruits.
I just have to say one thing. You've got my name with Vivek Singh and Vivek's name with Anil Singh because we made that shift in that seat. You might need to make that change.
Okay, thank you.
No, and I'm going to add one more thing to that. You see, it's fine to, and Vivek is right. I mean, that's so true. But put yourself in the first year. And I remember, Standard Chartered at that time was the bank that sponsored the first event. And the point was that they were he asked me, the head of brand, once he signed up and he was getting bombarded by London. So why would you spend money on this kind of a thing? And he asked me, he says, Anil, will it be a success? And I told him, I asked him, I said, Neil, what is a yardstick for success? So he didn't know. And I said, well, I'll have over 15,000 people on ground. He says, okay, that's great. And that was the yardstick for success. Now, we couldn't get 5 people even on 15,000. So how did we go about that? And if you realize these small things that we inducted then, like the Dream Run, there was nothing in the world in any running event world over called the Dream Run. Didn't exist, right? And so to create the Dream Run was, guys, come in, showcase the city, walk, run, do what you like. Be there for charity. Be there because Michael Johnson and Mike Powell are on the same hallowed turf. Do it whichever way you want, but come out. And that was the catalyst to get just amateur walkers, if I may put it that way. And then, of course, we got the Indian institutions like Indian Railways and Army and Navy and Air Force to give us, we had the elite athlete field, but to give us runners, because we couldn't have a single not runner running in a half or a full marathon. That would have been absurd. So that's the way we started. And until about a week before the event, we had no more than 5,000 people, but they all surged in the last week. So, these are wonderful things. We made some hard decisions. We were tempted by carrots along the way. I still remember, I'll tell you a quick fun story. Coca-Cola at that time was shown great interest in this event. Not the first time I presented. So they came back and the head of marketing at that time said, come back. I want to talk to you. There seems to be some method in your madness. And I had asked for a sum of money. And he says to me, well, you know what? I like what you're doing. So I'm going to start you with, it was literally 40% of my need. And of our ask, I beg your pardon. And he says to me, by the way, we are Coca-Cola, so we can do a lot for you. And we couldn't agree. And as I was leaving the door, he says to me, Mr. Singh, you're making a mistake. Let me tell you that. And I told him one thing. I said, look, sir, you're probably way more right than I am, because, I'm trying to think of something different, never happened, never constructed before, never held. So I said, look, you're probably more right, but I don't believe that if I do it in a quiet fashion or in a subdued fashion or not with what I want, live television, helicopters, and best runners in the world, it's not going to work. So here's my problem. If I make the mistake and I fail, I can sleep well at night. Can you imagine me if I follow your way and fail? How will I ever get to sleep? So that was, these are many, many such situations we faced along the way. And that's something which we were lucky enough to be able to write through.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And as well, it shows your passion and commitment to build what you build. And as well, I believe that any business, if you don't have that passion, you cannot build it. But it's not just your company, is as well something that has been from the first 5,000 people to how much people do you have right now? What are the numbers? Because now it's a massive amount of people that you have in your events.
We had 55,000 people running in the Mumbai Marathon this year
After qualifying.
And that's after, we have strict qualifying times and we have cutoffs and we have certain categories just close up. So yes, and we still had 55,000 people.
That's impressive. But an event like this reaches millions of people.
$400 million industry we've created in India. India, annually. $4 million industry. They're close to over 1,700 timed running events.
Yeah, and a lot of these numbers are not reflected because, for instance, I've been studying the sport industry in India, and it doesn't reveal most of this because I think, like you mentioned, the 5 pillars is particularly inspiring, and as well the different ways you've been building, because you build an ecosystem, and that ecosystem is what makes Procam and all the initiatives so special, because it relates with the sports component, the society component, the charity component, and as well the wellness and all the spiritual part that India is quite unique on that. So can you tell us about that? Because that is, I think, like you said, $400 million, which doesn't reflect at all the numbers. I was checking the numbers.
So if you see the mail that Kevin may have sent you, just for you, you will see it there. It will be very well identified there.
No, I have these as a notes. But for instance, right now, the official numbers that I found in the internet for India industry is 77 billion Indian rupees in 2018, which is not realistic at all. Because for the entire sports industry in India. Which
we are talking only running with the 400 million.
No, I know, but for instance, the official numbers, if you search in Google, are not even 100 million. So Google is completely outdated. It doesn't reflect that. So I think, can you touch these numbers? I think it's really important to understand for people listening to us.
77 billion rupees is $1 billion, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just doing.
No, it's less. But it's if you convert. But that is the thing, is that it's kind of a
billion US dollars.
No, 77 billion rupees
is 1 billion US. It's about 1.2 billion US, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah.
And remember that the $400 million is also that is being reflected in shoe sales.
I think it's much bigger.
Yes, it's much bigger. This 1.2 billion will not even take care of cricket. Cricket is bigger than that on its own. So
exactly.
Cricket would be another big figure on maybe $500 million.
I'm happy to send you the latest reports that have been published by the Big Four.
So outside cricket, it's at least $1 billion US, like you're correctly saying, 77 billion rupees. It's about 1.2 billion US dollars. But it's more important is this ecosystem that Anil spoke about. When we started, there were about 2.5 races in India. And last year, we ended at 1,600 races by different promoters across the length and breadth of India. From 30,000 runners, we've gone to 2.2 million registered active runners. Now, what a conversation that is. We did a back of the envelope calculation, and the active universe in India, people who are health conscious, people who try and adopt some kind of a healthy lifestyle, whether it's walking, whether it's a diet, whether it's a class, whether it's a gym, whether it's Zumba, whether it's whatever, it's close to 90 million in India presently today. Look at the upside we have, 2.2 million in just the running space, 90 million health conscious individuals and touching health and fitness in some form or the other. This was not there in India before the running revolution, before the Mumbai Marathon, which is a catalyst for this. So it's fascinating to see a country enter into a paradigm of participation, of involvement, of awareness, of consciousness. And I think that is a legacy that we're very happy to have contributed to.
No, that is very inspiring, and I'm very proud actually to just listen to what you said, because I think we have if you look at the news, we just see negative stuff. So I think this brings as well, and I think India is I interview a couple of deans and high-profile teachers from India. There's a positive sense of hope that you don't find in the Western world. So I want to touch that part, and especially the work you've been doing in terms of building this ecosystem. And as well, putting it together, because like you said, there was no blueprint when you started. So you build this blueprint, you put it together, but you put as well people from completely different ways, like you said, the Coca-Colas, the Bollywood stars, everyone looking, and you create this unique and special movement as well. That is right now becoming the running, almost the running philosophy. So can you tell us about this running philosophy?
More than that, there's one thing I'll just say. More than that, can you believe that we today own 4 major running events, right? Soon to be 5, but right now 4. Tata Mumbai Marathon is within the top 10 marathons of the world. And I would like to call it number 6 because you can never beat London and Chicago and New York and Boston.
No, I think you will. I don't have doubts. In 5 years, you will.
I think that's too much history associated there. But today we are, but whether we are 6th or 7th or 8th is irrelevant, we are in the top 10 in the world. The Airtel Delhi Half Marathon is the number 1 half marathon in the world. Bigger than any one of them. The Tata Consultancy Services World 10K in Bengaluru is the premier World 10K. If you look at the Tata Steel Kolkata 25K, it's a silver label event, but in the top 3 in the world, and soon to be a gold label and be number 1 in the world. So can you imagine that we have 3 gold label events today, soon to be 4, soon to be 5, and in India to have number 1, number 3, number 6 in the world in a short span of 17 years. That's a great story.
No, that's impressive.
One with their own identity. The Tata Mumbai Marathon, which is a full full marathon. The Airtel Delhi Half Marathon. The TCS World 10K in Bengaluru. The Tata Steel Kolkata 25K. Each having its own identity, each having its own leadership speak globally. Not a me too to anybody.
That is really impressive. So can you tell us about, I'm particularly curious about the distance and all the work you've been building around the distance running, because I think that's quite an interesting thing. And as well, there's an entire work in promoting and conducting world-class international distance running events in India. And as well, you have an entire philosophy around that. So can you tell us about that?
So, it's distance running is the largest participative sporting activity in India. We're talking about at least 700 new amateur runners lacing up their shoes and taking to the streets of India
Every single day.
Every single day. Plus, the magical thing about this is this 700 at least people who are doing this, lacing up their shoes and taking the streets of India, cut across the socio-economic graph. You have corporate heads, you have celebrities, you have the common man, everybody. And that's what the beautiful thing is. The road has been a great leveler. So it's truly a democratic uprising. It's a democratic sporting uprising from the ground up. Women did not run in India. You should see how it has empowered women. It's worth seeing in a place like Delhi, which Anil spoke about. The first couple of years, we hardly saw any woman come out and run. It was not even conceivable. Today, Delhi with women running is at the forefront. I don't know whether you're aware of this, but something amazing happened last year. We have pacers, right? For a 21 kilometer, we have at least a set of 21 pacers because there are different hours, different minutes, and sometimes, there's a 10K, there's a 21K, there are some segments are broken up into 15. You will know this as a runner. They're called buses. Every pacer, and that's a responsibility. That's an accomplishment. Every pacer at the Airtel Delhi half marathon last year was a woman.
Wow, that's impressive.
I mean, what are we talking about? From a zero culture of running amongst women in Delhi to have every pacer. And yes, when we saw women coming and applying, we said, can we do only women pacers? We didn't. In Bangalore, all women pacers. In Delhi, so it's amazing. It's amazing what's happening. It's amazing how the cultural revolution is taking place along with the sporting revolution. And yes, participative sport is the cornerstone for that because still people come out, get involved, take care of their health and fitness, change the conversations on the dinner table. It can't happen. Participative sport is at the cornerstone of the sporting consumption revolution in India. It cannot happen any other way. So it's so much, it's so interlinked with social aspects. It's so interlinked with empowerment of women. It's so interlinked with charity. Social giving wasn't a big thing in India. When it comes to giving, no country in the world can touch India. But that is one form of giving that we were number one at, which is called religious giving. We give to God. And we give to God with wholeheartedly.
I'm changing my name to God.
Our temples hold more wealth than the economies of many countries. But when it came to social giving, there were a lot of barriers. The marathon has single-handedly changed social giving. And I'm not just talking sporting social giving where it's the largest, but social giving. There's a whole Give India week today in October. Where is the roots of that? Where is the genesis of that? The genesis is that in year one in 2004, 16 years ago, the Mumbai Marathon raised 1.4 crores, which at that time must have been whatever number, $100,000 for charity. More, $200,000, $300,000, $200,000 today.
In today's time, it's 200,000.
The first city money that much? 1.4 crores. And it would have been much more. I don't know what the dollar rate at that time was in 2003, 30 rupees or whatever. We raised $500,000 US by that year's conversion. And it changed the paradigm of social giving. Not just sporting giving, but social giving. So, the pillars we spoke about, and we said now they've grown into trees that are bearing fruit. It's true. As far as sporting giving goes, even today with cricket and football and every other sport, the marathons are the largest sporting charity platforms in the country today.
This year's Tata Mumbai Marathon, January 2020, raised $7 million for charity this year alone.
Wow. That's impressive, actually. And as well, I think, like you said, what I love about what you've been doing is this component of social impact. So I would like to touch the work that you've been doing in terms of not only building this social fabric, but as well trying to look at this from an industry and the data and digital platform. Because that is a very important thing, because you've been building that, as you build this footprint that mostly is part of the growth of the sports industry in India, you build as well a digital footprint with television, celebrities, but as well now getting into more data and all different areas. So can you tell us about that as well? Because you have a huge footprint on that area that people don't know, and I think it's really important to demystify India and as well understand the powerhouse that there is in India right now and the work that we've been doing.
Yes, for sure. Data is, and you've heard this before 100 times, I'm sure data is the new oil. So we are sensitive to data. We collect data. We've managed to, by the grace of God, keep it as securely as possible. But the real fun part is to use data to connect with people, to use data to make people's lives easier, to use data to make people make better choices. What do we mean by that? We are now working. I mean, there are many things are work in progress, so I can't share everything, but we're working on how do we digitally connect with people. We interact with them X number of times a year. Our registrations are there, our charity aspects are there. There are various links in with the marathon. But can we connect with them throughout the year? Can we talk? Can we engage with them? Can we build a community which is connected to each other? And the only way you can do that is digitally. The whole world is not just moving digitally, but Procam has the luxury to move physically, and that many people don't have. We have large physical footprints, which are not going anywhere. But on top of those physical footprints, we want to marry digital layers. And when you do that, you come to the universe that is growing, which is the physical universe. So we already have a community. We talk to the community X times a year. We have the data. We have what we call the last mile connect. We're just seeing how we can use all of this together, build an engine, build a conversation piece, build content, build commerce, to not just talk to these people, but to engage with this health, conscious, and fitness industry in India. That's the new challenge. That's the new paradigm. And we're slowly...
And we are lucky to have the trust of people. We have the credibility. That's a very important part when you're starting something like this. We have the influence, especially in the world of participative sport. Be it anywhere in the world, it doesn't matter. Today, Procam, by the grace of God, owns 4 of the most premium properties in the world in running itself on its own. So we have the ability to use all our strengths and all our blessings, if I may put it that way, and make that work into what Vivek also says. So there, and we've also realized that we've done 2 more things, that each amateur marathoner is a celebrity in his own right. He has the influence over 16 people. That's his family, his close by colleagues, and his close by friends. So if we have a 2 million base, that can influence 32 million people. And whether what soap you eat, what food you eat, what drink you have, what digestive biscuits you take, what do you wear, what should you do, he influences 16. And we influence the 2 million as of today, right? That's what 2.0 is growing rapidly, exponentially, if I may say so. So that's another strength that comes in with that, with the other thing. And another thing is, we've actually, Procam and SMG Yuga, Evaluator Company, have put together an actual measurement for sponsors and for ROI between what is participative sport and what is spectatorial. And there are so many different elements to it, I can't get into that in detail, but important to know that a good event like the Tata Mumbai Marathon would give you 1.83 times more than what you would get as a spectatorial sport. So we will get that in terms of eyeballs, blah, 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 and all the regular ROI that goes with media and television and digital and PR and all that being measured. But now we have the opportunity to create a 1.83 times more of that value. So a sponsor is getting, as of today, 10 times the value, he's suddenly now getting 28 times the value, if you know what I mean. So it's a fact, and this is now accepted definitely in India and parts of the world, because SAP is a global company doing it with Manchester United, for example, uses our thing. What they do is for the football thing, for the football measurement, they use the normal spectatorial value. But for the community initiatives, they use our matrix. So it's a great thing to create more value, which participative sport brings to the table.
So one of the things you've been doing, so you have all the platform that, as you just mentioned, reach around 32 million users, and probably more in terms of reach, especially when you have like a big event, because it goes in national televisions and things like that. But one of the things you've been building is as well a registration platform focused on the active lifestyle audience in India, and a blog called Finisher Mag. So can you tell us about that? Because that is a very interesting thing, and I think it's going to be the biggest thing, because the crossroad between sports and lifestyle and wellness, like you just mentioned, is the biggest thing right now, especially with COVID-19. This is going to be increasingly more important. So can you tell us about that, and as well your vision for that project?
So, Finishers Mag is one of our digital products and our digital offerings, which has news and reviews and things about the running ecosystem, the participative sport ecosystem. Many such products that we're going to come out with. One of them, which is already there, is Finishers Mag, like you correctly said. Like another product, which we launched very interestingly just in January this year, was called the Tata Mumbai Marathon Run as One. Now, what was Run as One? It was an amazing product. We actually said that everybody can't get entry into the Mumbai Marathon, number one. Number two, there are many reasons why somebody cannot actually travel to the Mumbai Marathon on that particular month or date a year. So can they touch, can they be a part of, can they feel the Tata Mumbai Marathon from wherever they are? And the answer was yes. So just 9 days to go, because by the time we got the architecture in place, we got A6 Runkeeper to support us, because we needed a platform, which was a tracking platform with GPS and everything. By the time we only 9 days to go. We still launched it, and you won with 3,000 people across the breadth and length of India, paid and ran in their own location, on their own geographic location.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Absolutely, we'd send them a digital e-bib, an electronic bib. We've given them an electronic medal that they can print out. We've done certain things of tracking via A6 Runkeeper, exactly what they did and didn't do. We've opened up 500 entries in our main categories of the Mumbai Marathon 2021. The fastest 500 in each category will qualify without having to submit any further qualification certificate. And they suddenly felt that they were a part of the Mumbai Marathon. Now, can you imagine where this can go to? So there's so many different products and ideas in our mind, content ideas, media offering ideas, physical and digital ideas, whereby we want to engage and integrate with this community like I mentioned. Today, people have realized, and this is important, and this is something very important, that people have realized the value of experience over security. You ask the millennials today, what job security was to us in our time is not the same to them. They would rather choose experience over security. They would rather choose to live for the moment rather than other things. It's just how their minds are trained. And when it comes to live physical experiences, I think nobody does it better than us. Nobody does it better than the marathons.
That's amazing. So I think one of the areas that you've been actually quite unique, and you touched that, is the charity work that you've been doing over these years, and as well all the basis of that work. So can you highlight the process that you have for the charity work that has been creating a huge amount of amounts that you mentioned some of them, but it's growing bigger and bigger. But as well, I know that you have a very strict rules when it comes to the charity work and the way you manage that. So can you highlight that? Because like you said, you were probably one of the first ones shifting away the charities just from the religious part to the community through the sports. And as well, you created a mechanism to make it work in a more ethical and more transparent way.
So charity for us is a very important pillar. It's a pillar of the marathon. It's a very important pillar. And I think thanks to early partners that we had, we managed to create a beautiful architecture. The first thing we decided was we're not going to nominate charities. There are many big marathons in the world, London, New York, which nominate charities. We said we're not going to nominate a charity. We're going to be cause agnostic. Let people decide who they want to run for. That's the first thing. The second thing we said is that the charity will be an arm's length away from us. So we had to get a charity partner. And United Way of Mumbai, which is a chapter of the United Way that you know of in the US and all over the world, is our partner in Mumbai. So we said we have to get a partner who will not just do charity and be a philanthropic gateway, but will empower the NGOs. We rather teach a man how to fish rather than give him a fish to eat. We all know that. But it's easier said than done. So United Way and earlier to United Way Give India actually worked with the NGO sector, worked with hundreds of NGOs, teaching them how to use the marathon, how to use it in a sustainable way, how to use it in a way that they could grow their giving aspect. So we have just in Mumbai alone, we will have 300 NGOs that will use the Mumbai Marathon to raise funds and awareness for themselves. We have another 100 odd NGOs in Delhi, another 50 odd in Calcutta, another 100 odd in Bangalore. There's an ecosystem of NGOs that people don't have that has been set up with over 500 NGOs using the marathon platform to raise funds and awareness.
And after being vetted for their work and everything by the gateway,
they use it. We teach them how to build corporate partnerships and relationships. We taught them in the earlier days how to, after you finish the marathon, get into payroll giving. But the beautiful thing is the platform because it comes every year. The companies want to have their human resource teams, human resource departments want to have the employees run. And if you come to the Mumbai Marathon, and like Anil said, Dinis, it'll be a pleasure to have you all. You see the hundreds of companies running. We don't collect anything from them but our registration fee, which is a minuscule amount of $10 or $15. The privilege to come onto that road and run is because they've adopted a charity close to their heart. And they pay thousands of dollars for that charity. Only then do they get the right to come and run on that road. We don't take anything from that. It's amazing how it has built. It's transparent, it's accountable, it's cause agnostic.
We also have other like champions of charity.
Those are layers that we ratify.
Good point too.
In fact, like Anil brought up a good point, which my CFO keeps telling me, he's saying, hello, we do so much of charity, but for me, it's a huge cost in my P&L. And that's true because the charity paradigm is a cost for P&L because we gratify the people who raise the maximum monies. We facilitate their race day parts by building corporate tents for them. We hold corporate functions for them. So we actually facilitate the charity pillar through many, many layers, and that makes it possible. But today you should see what the NGOs are doing. They've used their connects through the marathon to build long-term sustainable partnerships with corporates. They've used the marathon platform to understand how to, get high net worth individuals into their fold. And that's why I could make a bold statement and say that the social paradigm changed because of the marathon. Because the marathon was not just about giving them X million dollars a year. It was teaching them how to fish. How do you go to a corporate? What do you present? What should you say? Yes, the marathon was the platform that brought the corporate and the NGO together. But having brought them together, we said, go and prosper now. So they did the marathon and they went back to the corporate and said, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? and a giving ecosystem was built on the base of the marathon platform in India.
And till today, that's what we are so proud about. We've raised over the years, over the 4 events, close to $75 million for charity. And here's the beautiful part: each penny, I can tell you in which brick it lies.
Well, that's amazing. And bear in mind that this money in India, it's the triple probably that we have in Europe and around other parts of the world. But what is really amazing is this building of an ecosystem that it started from nothing to create as well an empowerment of people. And I love the metaphor of don't give them the fish, teach them how to fish. I think it's critical as well. So how do you see, and I think you are in a new, we are all right now going through the COVID-19 challenges, and as well through the data challenge as well. I think especially the sports industry is going to be increasingly the most, probably the most powerful industry in the world because of the touch of wellness and healthcare, because of course, through the data, you can find a lot of these things. So I think India is very specific, and I really love it because the way you look at data, the way you look at society, even with all the complexities of the different religions, different languages, different cities, like you said, that I like many countries, not many, in some cases bigger than a lot of countries in Europe and other places. How are you seeing this kind of new, I think we're going to have probably the next 10 years, a major revolution in the way you look at data, especially the bridge between sports, wellness, and lifestyle. You have all this data and you build this community. So from your experience, how can we do this in the ethical way, as well in the community way, but as well in a way that we're not really becoming slaves of the data, but that the data is used to empower us like we've been doing, but as well as we get more increasing points of data. For instance, if you're using a phone, you can know how much distance we've been running, and all the watches of Apple and so forth. So how are we seeing these areas? Because I'm particularly interested, and I know that is an area that is very dear for you, and you're already considering going forward, the new changes.
So data is very interesting, and we're all learning. We're all just babes in the woods, and we're just learning our way up the ladder. But the idea is not just data. Everybody is sitting on a lot of data today. You realize that we don't even know how much of our data is actually with others around the world. And you know what I'm speaking about. All the big companies have. It's what you do with the data. How are we going to improve somebody's quality of life with that data? Can I track what Dinis did in this month? Can I track how many kilometers did Dinis cycle, run, or swim in 2019? Can I track that? Can I give that information to a life insurance company and say, hey, so what if Dinis is 50 years old? This is the sheet that I have of Dinis. He has cycled so much, he has run so much, he has swum so much. You know what? Don't give me a 50-year-old paradigm bracket risk. You bring down Dinis's premium by 15 to 18 percentage points. And they cannot argue with me that my data, so they say, yeah, but he is 50 years old. I don't know what your age is, I'm just making an arbitrary guess. He's 50. So what if he's 50 years old? Look at this data that I have. Can you now talk about his health insurance premium coming down? Can you give him a free policy? Can you come down 15 to 18 percentage points on his health premium policy? Can he? So we want to use data, not just for the sake of data. We want to use data to use it in an ethical, in a manner that benefits the others, that in a manner that conveys something. Can we use data to, it's so amazing that people are talking about the COVID aspect. One of the biggest defenses you can have against COVID is your own immunity. Do you know this? There's nothing more important than your own immunity. Your own immunity is not going to get built up just by washing hands and sitting at home. And I'm not saying that we should violate that. We should only go out as per government directives. But immunity is going to build up by you getting out there and doing something about it. We are that space that makes you get out there and do something about it. So we're talking health. we're talking fitness, we're talking insurance, we're talking convenience. You want to run in another city of your choice. There are so many logistical issues to go through. Can we use data to facilitate that? You have come into a new city. Can we tie you up with a running group to facilitate a nice run for you in the morning? So the idea is how you're going to use data, how holistically, how ethically, and how wisely are you going to use data to make a difference to the quality of life of someone.
Yeah, that is very important, and I think one of the things that that you sent me that I'm particularly interested is the platform and the research you did about engaging a nation through health and fitness, because I think that is critical, and I think you touched probably the most sensitive part of any country, which is the data about health and wellness, and as well how to use this data for good. Because of course, right now we have all the fights with Amazon, or actually with Facebook in particular, and a lot of other things right now. And we're receiving, if you see with fake news and things like that, it's becoming completely crazy. So tell us about your vision for this project that you've been working and research about engaging a nation through health and fitness. Because I think every nation in the world needs this. And I think it's probably another massive business opportunity, but as well a challenge for countries and for business and for organizations.
It is a challenge. You've got to do it wisely and ethically, like I mentioned before, but it's a huge opportunity. And it's a positive opportunity. We're not talking exploiting data. We're talking using data to make a positive influence in somebody's life. We're talking of using data to actually bring down his cost of living wherever it's possible. So there are many, many facets to it. Our sponsors are excited by it. Our partners are excited by it. We are excited by it. Can the running community, for example, Dinis, actually tell a sponsor of ours what product to actually, let's say there's a shoe coming out. There's a running shoe. Can the running community give feedback, not just scientists and researchers who've been doing it for 100 years? Can the running community give such quality feedback that manufacturers start aligning with them, their final consumers? Can we bring consumers and manufacturers closer together using data? Can decisions at the factory level be made by people whose data we have supplied, saying this is what we know, this is the issues we have? So, I mean, it's suffice to say, and there's a lot, you've done some amazing work with blockchain and artificial intelligence, and I think it's incredible what you have done with your company, and I've read up on some of that. So it is out there. The people who use it wisely, ethically, the people who use it to make a difference to others' lives are going to sustain. The people who just use it to exploit and get a little ahead of the race and get a little ahead of the pack or make a few dollars may not sustain over the long term.
And it also doesn't, it's so seamlessly on this side of things. Also the brands that brought us with the big sponsors and brands, and these are not small sponsorships, these are huge sponsorships. When you talk about that kind of properties like Tata, Mumbai, or the Airtel Delhi Half Marathon, and we have so many partners. But I think it also not only supports this side of things, but it just works so well for brands to understand what's happening, how they can increase their sponsorship, their engagement, their empathy, there's so much more that comes out of a running event like of this scale and this size and this meaning that it has for everybody involved. But if you look at it, that it also helps the business. It also helps their businesses. So it's a wonderful marriage of many things that come through. It's not just but a very important point. It's got a much even more holistic approach for how brands can interact with the consumers.
So I'm particularly...
When you provide a city as a canvas, it has so many different layers that come into it.
No, they're really impressive. And so one of the things that I love about your work is always the focus on an ideological and philosophical base for your work. So there's the business, there's the sports, and then there's of course all the technical parts. There's as well an architecture. I think Vivek, you mentioned the idea of architect. So one of the things you have that I really love is the 10 pillars of engagement and growth. So can you tell us about that? Because I think it's really very important for actually any event in the world, but as well to create, like you said, meaningful data. And I think you mentioned
the
blockchain.
5 pillars.
The 10 in your presentation.
The 5 pillars or 10 pillars?
The 10 pillars. You in your platform, engaging a nation through health and fitness. you talk about 10 pillars of engagement and growth. But I'm sure that you probably synthesize it. Isn't
the marathon, the running movement has been built on 5 pillars.
Okay.
The running movement. Are you talking about that?
I think he's talking about some pillars. These are more actually corporate engagement, or is it?
I'm not clear what your question is.
Like we have, with our corporates, we have pillars like CSR.
It's the mix. Exactly.
So
yeah. Because here.
Yeah. So, we have what we call our pentagram, actually, which is slightly different to the pillars that the marathon was founded on. And they are things like the human resource angle, how we connect a company's human resource aspirations into our marathons. How do we connect a company's corporate social responsibility into our marathons? How do we connect companies' marketing and strategic objectives into our marathons? And most importantly, how we build emotional equity for our company, product, or service. That's the beauty, that you actually get the ability to build emotional equity for your product. You can sponsor 100 events, all are good, no question about it. But when you sponsor participative sport, there is a point of sweat. When you sponsor participative sport, like Anil said, there are stories, there are 55,000 stories. That day, that's the only event that I know, and every marathon for that matter, that you have 50,000 winners. And each person is feeling like he won the gold medal. He doesn't care which Kenyan, which Ethiopian, or whichever country won he feels he won the gold medal as long as he's finished it in a time that he had set for himself. These are stories that we help connect with through our corporate sponsors, through our partners. They use these stories. There's emotional equity that gets built, CSR, HR, various angles we connect with, the social media angle of things. Of course, the above the line and below the line activations that we connect to. So there are 10 different aspects of how we connect with our ecosystem that supports and makes running possible, our sponsors and partners. That's different from the pillars that the event was actually built on.
You ever thought of looking when a company that like an MGM or any studio looking to make a film, they need a script. The script is the most powerful thing on which money is invested, actors are chosen, directors are chosen, locations are chosen, blah, 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 blah. And if you, and that's, to get a good script is always a search, right, by everybody. But if you look at a marathon, and each and every one of them, there are 50,000 stories, out of which 2,000 can be made into a feature film. They're that powerful. And so if you can produce these, and these are made, the rest can be made a phenomenal editorial of. And so there's so much there. And if you are looking to tell stories, like every brand is, or every corporate wants to latch on to being a part of the story, because when you have a story, then I can bring in the actors, the production, the location, the scenario. That's the same thing in life. So if you really look at it, that to have that play out in front of your eyes, and then for people to be able to latch onto those stories, whether it's brands or speak or government or the fabric of the city, you'll understand that is huge amount of power and connect. Because what is sport? Sport is passion and connect, nothing else.
To take, I don't know whether this, what significance has, but last year, an organization approached us. It's called Adventures Beyond Barriers. And they approached us and they said, we'd like to use the platform of the marathon that you have built to actually espouse our cause to India. We said, what is your cause? Because we realized very quickly they're into disability. They have various physically challenged people, and they have an agenda, which is that we want a right to enjoy as much as a normal person does. So what if we have some physical limitations? So we said, we know that, and we already have something called the wheelchair event, and you're most welcome to be a part of it. They said, no, the wheelchair event is different. To cut a long story short, Dinis, we tied up with Adventures Beyond Barriers. We used the power of the marathon whereby people with severe, whether were blind, some were deaf, some were other handicaps, we connected them to a normal runner. And not just a normal runner. We put it out there, thanks to their help, that that we would appreciate if a CXO from a corporate world would connect with us. We finally lined it up with 100 CXOs who finally on that day ran with 100 physically challenged people, completed 10 kilometers, not just the wheelchair event, which is 2 or 3 kilometers, completed 10 kilometers by running shoulder to shoulder. And now they're talking about how they can give these physically challenged people employment. So our boardroom conversations changed.
And that's really impressive. So as a wrap up, because we've been here for 1 hour and a half, and I have a lot of things to do. I think we're going to have 2 more interviews in the future because I want to touch the...
have you done 1.5 hours already?
Yeah, it's been going.
Wow.
It's fantastic.
Where the time flies. You're a good host, I must say.
Thank you. No, it's been a pleasure with listen to you. I'm actually very inspired. Actually, it's giving me a lot of ideas. So one of the things I want to touch is 2 things in a wrap up. So, and as well, then I want to do as well one thing. We do it after the record. So in terms of the industry size that you build, which is really impressive, we're talking about $400 million, as you mentioned, an annual rate of 24%. Okay. And the very important thing, and the part that I love, is that you're looking at the ecosystem and you have the coaches, the trainers, of course, the runners, the physiotherapists, the time solutions and all the different things, the travel organizations, the hotels, the airlines, the activewear brands, the wearables, the local running supplements and local vendors. So you build an entire ecosystem, which is very mature and as well very important for the future, because as we look at the future of work, most of the jobs that we have today, they won't be for the future. So actually, you build your own jobs, like you said. You made your passion your work and your organization. But this is critical for people around the world. There are people right now that live out of sports. There are people that have their own sponsors. The runners, like you said, in every small city, there's someone or there's a group of people that have this, and it's becoming a bigger industry. So how do you see this? Because you've been part of this and you are as well leading these waves. But this is incredible, more important, especially for India that has a young population, and as well to make sure that we take this population to community and to society and make them feel present, because that's a big challenge in the world economy. And if you look to Africa and even in Europe, for instance, in Spain, that's 20% unemployment, young people. In the US, we're getting close to 20% of unemployment. So people have to have different lifestyles, and this is a critical element. You just mentioned a lot of these things, but I would like to have your vision on this, because you've been building that. And I think India can be a beacon of hope on that.
I think that what I take out from your question is how this ecosystem has created employment, entrepreneurship employment, and other kinds of employment. And that's fabulously put. So from a non-existent aspect, people have started coaching other people. Today we have about 683 run clubs in India. Different reputed run. There are hundreds more that are doing self-coaching. We have 680 run clubs in India. There's a whole employment that has gone behind, participative events, whether it's volunteers, heads. So this ecosystem has actually given birth to many different kinds of industries. And the event industry, which we are a part of, which includes corporate events, which includes weddings, which includes social events, sporting events, music festivals, everything has exploded. Today, the government of India has realized the soft power of India lies in this, not in our steel, not in our power, not in our military and defense, not in our science. It lies in these aspects: events, music, films, sport. We all know, Dinis, 6 grams of gold. That's all that there is in an Olympic medal. 6 grams of gold. 6 grams of gold can lift the worth of a nation. And today the government is helping us. The government is recognizing. The government has started Fit India movement. The government has started Fit India movement. The government has started Khelo India, which Khelo India, Khelo means game and play in Hindi. Khelo India, which is to get people across different levels of proficiency to have competitive sport. Fit India is about the common man, anybody coming out and taking a challenge to get fit. Now I'm talking about national level programs, the Fit India movement and Khelo India, two massive programs launched in the last few years. Why? Because the government has seen the groundswell of people wanting a greater amount of health, fitness, consciousness, people wanting greater opportunity to express their health and fitness.
Tourism. Look at tourism, and look at, and, you know, after all, to put a global marathon event in a city, it's a private-public partnership with the government, right? We can't close a city without the government. And now today, if you see the police, we have a thing called the Police Cup. Thousands and thousands of policemen run in the marathons. So there's a lovely ecosystem, you know, which is being beautifully sort of that coexists and is growing, like Vivek said. And there's so much more support of the government and so much more pride of the government and so much more showcasing of the government, of the city, and hence the thing. So it's all evolving. They've understood it. They appreciate it. And, you know, so it's a great, we're only at the beginning of the entire journey.
Well, that's amazing. And I think it's a great, inspiring part. And I think all the countries should be listening to this kind of things you're doing. For instance, I saw that you have, for instance, 35 cities in some of your events and a lot of different things, which is very impressive. And as you said, this is a global effort between organizations like yours, countries, cities, but as well with people and as well creating a new narrative. And I think I'm very, what I love about your work is this narrative of inspiration, but as well about positive creation of new value, because we need to come up with this new narrative. So as a new wrap up, I would like probably just listen from you the wrap up of the interview. What would be the advice you have for the new brothers that are creating a new company right now that have an ambition like yours? I think it's particularly important to give this hope as well, and as well this inspiration as successful business people that start 3 decades ago, but are still full of energy to go for the next 4
well, first, I will say find a brother like Vivek. Because you know why? I mean, it's wonderful that I say that. I'm not saying this. You know, there's a very funny story I will tell you. And the story is that we signed a huge deal with a major corporate. What we didn't know, they were doing a background check on us into the very details of what we are, the two brothers are. Should we sign such a big deal with them? And unfortunately, the MD of the company, while signing, says, you know what I found in my survey? He says, listen, when everybody told him, when you're signing a deal with Procam, make sure Anil and Vivek are both there. Because if you just have Anil, don't sure the event will come up or not come up, you're not sure. And if you only have Vivek, you're not how big and everything will grow. So make sure they're both there, but then go ahead and sign. So that's the real truth. That's one side of things. The other I'd say is believe. If you believe in a vision, if you believe in yourself, and if you believe in what you want to do, nothing good is going to come out without every option. Because if it was easy, somebody else would have done it by then, right? That's common sense. But really, you've got to believe, and you've got to stay true to yourself. And to quote our dear friend Joe Namath, who said, you know, if you're not going to go all the way, why go at all?
So I'll add something as a message, since you've asked for that. I think every business needs to know that the first license it gets is the license from society to exist. You need to be sensitive to that. The most sustainable businesses, if you see, which have lasted over generations, over decades, have been that have contributed to the growth and the well-being of society. So for us, that aspect, what we call a moral compass, was very important. That what we are doing, of course, it's commercial, of course we're going to, but does it have a larger good attached to it? And I think that's very important. Sometimes companies forget that the first license was from society, and there has to be something good. You're adding value in some way. You're adding value in some way to people around you, to society around you, to the lives of people around you.
That's beautiful, and thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and actually very inspiring as well. I hope everyone finds it as I found it myself, and I think this will be the series of the first a lot of other interviews, because I'm looking forward to do even face to face, because there's a lot of things and a lot of experience that you have that is wonderful to show to the world, not just to India but to everyone, because I think India is I think everyone loves India, but I think not everyone understands how much talent and how much inspiration is there. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and God bless, and thank you everybody else.